Hey everyone, with our lowercase letters done, let's look at some of those uppercase, and we'll start off easy with the capital I, capital L, and capital T. If you've done the course in order, we'll already have most of the lowercase alphabet done. When we did that, we started with some of our components that came from the original letter forms we drew, and we're going to do the same thing in the uppercase. So if you skip that lowercase, this is what we're going to do. We're going to open our letter form like our capital H, and the letter forms that we're going to be working on, I, L, and T. I'm going to make sure I'm on the layer I want to work on, and we'll start with that sans serif. With our capital I, it is as simple as you imagine, pulling that stem in and making sure he's working right away with those side bearings. Now sometimes in a sans serif version, we might make our I just a little bit thicker because he is standing on its own. I only tap that up about 3 points just so it holds a little bit more weight, but not so much that it's recognizable. In our serif version, we'll go to this H. We'll grab the stem as well as the serifs, copy those, and paste them into the layer we need to. Again, we'll fix these side bearings, so 79 it looks like is what we're using. And I'm going to make sure and just double check that my serifs are where they need to be. And again, if I wanted to make this just a hair wider, I could do that. So we'll tap them out a couple each way. And I could even scale this serif a little bit. Maybe we'll make him just 2% bigger and make sure he looks like he's standing in the center there. Again, we'll just do 2% scale. And our capital I is done. Then we'll do our capital L. So again, we'll start on that sans serif layer so it's a little bit easier. And for this one, we're going to grab that upright and that horizontal. And just as you'd imagine, we'll bring that horizontal all the way down so it sits on that baseline. And then we'll just make sure our proportion is a little bit nicer. With this, it's quite wide and it would create a bunch of negative space up in that pocket there. So we want to bring this down so he holds a little bit more on his own and doesn't feel like it's going to carry too much white space. I'm going to make sure my side bearings are right. And then I'll go in and start on that serif version. From our serif version, we'll grab the stem, this serif, the horizontal, and we'll bring this serif in, but we'll change him in a hot second. On the serif layer of our L, we'll paste all these in. I'm just going to quick move this so it's over the top of our one we just did. And then I'll pull this stem down, just like we did before. I want to make sure he's touching that baseline and those points will glow that sort of brown diamond shape when he's there. And I'm going to bring this in. Now we're going to have to sort out this left-hand serif and the serif that comes off of that bottom stroke. In the beginning, we added this little dimple here as a detail, and now we need to either remedy that by making it flat or dropping it down so that it ends being level, and I think I'm going to do that instead. So first, I'll decompose this. I hope that you're enjoying the video so far. This is a mid-roll just to ask if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, as that's the best way to support the videos on this channel. If you already have subscribed, be sure to like the video and comment or tag somebody who might benefit from them. Now, back to our regular programming. Then I'm going to grab these points and these ones here, just so I'm moving all of them at the same time. And it looks like they're only 3 arrow clicks down. That puts this point into our overshoot a little bit, which just holds some of that detail into this letter form. Then I'm just going to delete this bit over here and make sure my bottom stroke comes all the way to match that point so that I still have this nice sharp angle down here. Then the last thing we need to do is this serif out here. Now this serif over here helps fill in some of this negative space and acts as that outstroke in this capital L. As you'd imagine, it comes from this serif that we've done originally. So again, I'm going to duplicate this over and we'll decompose it really quickly. Then the first thing I want to do is rotate this about 90 degrees. So we'll set 90 there and we'll rotate it. And the last thing I want to do is, I know I don't need this overshoot, so we'll pull it in here. And then we can set it here and start to look at what it's going to do. First, when I match that up, it has this little serif and it's not working too bad. It is just quite small. So to sort that out, I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to try and keep that right hand angle that we have, because I really do like that sort of dimple we've used throughout the typeface now. And I might widen this out so it holds a little bit more space. Here, I'm looking at that bottom preview to see how much this is going to take up. And he does look a little thick. Remember, our vertical strokes need to be a different weight. So I'm just going to thin him out a little bit so that my bottom serif feels right. And if you wanted to, you could continue to manipulate this, and we could do something quite dramatic, like out here, or we could have something more subtly detailed out here. We could even square him off and have him angled at that sort of cut. But I'm going to go back to what we had there because I think it was looking all right. Now we're going to do our capital T. For our capital T, we're going to do the same thing we've done with the other two letter forms. We're going to start on our sans serif version, and we'll grab these two parts from our capital H. In our T, we'll paste those there. I'm going to quick center my stem and pull this stroke up to the top there. I'm going to use those little middle points there to make sure he's looking like he's in the middle. And now our lowercase t might actually need to be just a little bit wider. So I'm going to hold Option, which will scale from the center there. And I'll just widen him out just a little bit. And I can look at this in context of the other letter forms. He still might be a little bit narrow, but I'm going to move on to that serif version to help us sort out how wide we might want this to be. We've already done some of the work we need to in this capital L, namely in drawing this serif here. So we'll grab it and we'll paste it into this capital T. We'll flip it a couple times, and then we'll go get the bits that I forgot we needed, which are the stem and that crossbar. So we'll grab it from that sans serif version and paste it in the serif version. Then I can pull this serif up and plop him right out there. I'm going to duplicate him, flip him, and attach him to the other side here. Then the last thing that we need in this serif version T is that bottom foot. And I'm actually going to go and get the one from the capital I because it is just a little bit wider. So we'll bring it in here. And it needs to be just a little bit wider because we don't want our capital T to look like he would fall over if he were standing up on his own. So once we bring in that serif, pull up our stroke so he matches, we can start to look at what this capital T is looking like. At this point, it can be helpful to think about our proportions of our letter forms. We narrow down our L, and he feels like he holds a similar amount of white space as our capital H. And we widened out our T a little bit, but it still looks a little narrow. So I'm going to go in, I'll grab all of these points, and I'm going to shift click my arrow keys so that I move by 10 instead. I'll do the same thing in our sans serif T. And again, we can look at them. We're going to look at all of these letter forms in comparison to one another. I'm going to bring some of these side bearings down. It looks like one is 26, and that seems like it'll be right. We can double check it on the lowercase l. Of course, it's much too big, so we'll bring him down just a little bit. And again, we'll go back, look at our letter forms. Yes, we need to sort out our side bearings. We may have narrowed down our capital L a little too much. Our capital T probably isn't wide enough yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and make sure we get a lot of our proportions working here before we move on. Again, narrowing that down, widening this out. What I'm looking for is that the negative space that's contained in every letter form feels equal. So when we look at this capital H, it is fairly wide. So I'm going to go into letters like my L and my T and think about this negative space here and how it relates to this total negative space and the negative space here and here. In all those cases, we want the letter form to contain about the same amount of visual space. So we'll continue to play with these to make sure that they do hold that same visual space. And once we're satisfied, we'll move on to our other letter forms. Thanks for watching, and as always, I hope you were able to gain something along the way, even if it's just a hotkey or how to move some points around that is different than what you may have otherwise known. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos coming out every single week, and comment or tag or share it with some other designers who you think would design some awesome fonts.